Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by my co-host today, Jacob Boyers. Jake, there's been some shots taken your way the past couple podcasts from one, Tyler Britton, for you not being here. First, we had the illness. No show yesterday either. Do you want to respond to Tyler Britton taking some shots at you?
Yeah, hey, sickness, sorry. I get it. Best ability is availability. Little under the weather, missed the show. As far as yesterday, I would just like to let Tom know that, some people have full-time jobs, 9 to 5, and then they have a family when they come home, and, it's a little tough to record right before a 7 o'clock game. So, disappointed I missed it. That's on me, but yeah, some of us actually have a life and can't sleep till 2 o'clock and wake up and do a podcast.
All right. Well, there's Jacob's reaction to Tyler taking some shots with some shots of his own there. But speaking of shots, Jake, I think you just made a lot of yours and hammered them home. People who were not making shots was this Kentucky offense in the first half. Abysmal first half that we saw. Only 28 points going into halftime. And as somebody who looked at I think it was 94 points was the over-under for Kentucky going into this game, and somebody who took the over, boy, was I severely disappointed in what we were doing in the first half. I liked it all defensively, did not like it offensively, but obviously the Cats still did have a 26-point win in this game. Let's go ahead and talk about the first half and what you saw from this team in the first 20 minutes of action.
Yeah, definitely a tale of two halves. Another kind of disappointing part of my day was I had to miss the first 10 minutes of this game. Shout out ESPN and YouTube TV. I was scrambling around. Finally, I got my in-laws log into Alta so that I could pull it up on the ESPN app. So shout out the in-laws. But so I did miss like the first, I guess it was like 8.5 minutes. And when I turned it on with 11 minutes to go in the first half and we had 9 points, it wasn't the most thrilling level of excitement. But yeah, first half was, I think you kind of hit it, just really, really bad. I think we really kind of learned, and it showed obviously in the second half, like Colin Chandler is just not a point guard. He's somebody that I've said all off season, I feel good him backing up low and taking those minutes, and it's just not an option. And I think you kind of realize how important, Denzel Aberdeen's going to be to this team, especially, in games where either Lowe's injured or foul trouble, stuff like that. So, the team just couldn't buy a bucket. I think Pope kind of summed it up perfectly, talking about, there was just way too much dribbling, not enough ball movement, getting forced to take bad shots and settling for bad shots. And 2 of 16 in the first half from behind the arc, and then the free throws, I'm probably more concerned about those than, the 3-point shots for the long haul. But yeah, just overall, very ugly first half. I don't think I would have ever expected a Pope offense against anybody to put up 28 points in a half.
Yeah, and can I just say, without being the negative Nancy here, I don't want to take your football side of everything that you do here, but outside of, that 40 minutes that we saw of Purdue and that offense that we saw there, because even the shooting in that game was not good either. I'm starting to grow more and more concerned with the outside shooting. I just don't know how prolific a Pope offense can be without not even necessarily elite 3-point shooting, but good 3-point shooting. This is the third game in a row we've seen where we haven't been able to knock down shots. And the guys that you're expecting to get back are not necessarily elite 3-point shooters. Obviously, Jalen Lowe didn't shoot a good percentage from Pitt last year. A lot of those shots were bad shots. We've kind of already talked about that. With guys like Trent Noah and Cam Williams not hitting those threes right now, and honestly, they're not close when they are shooting them, I'm very concerned because those are probably your two best shooters on the team. And we have guys like Otega Owe shooting pull-up threes in transition. I'm nervous about the 3-point shooting, and it really kind of just, as of right now, it really limits the ceiling that I think we can put on this team, at least from what we've seen 3 games. Obviously, 2 of them didn't count, and the first one was against Nichols, so we're kind of just rolling different things out there. And you saw it did change in the second half when you did have a true point guard running the set able to get Colin Chandler open shots, and I think that really changed his output for the game. You saw that transition from him in the first half, where first half he honestly, outside of the defensive side of the ball, looked almost unplayable back to his early days as a freshman last year. And then the second half just flips a switch, him playing the 2 guard with Aberdeen running the 1. Started knocking down threes. We hit some more in the second half, but are you growing concerned with the 3-point shooting of this team so far? Obviously, we're still early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, personally, not yet. I mean, I am concerned from the aspect of like Cam Williams because like that just it's weird because like we saw him be a good 3-point shooter at a D1 school. Like I understand Tulane's not Kentucky, but like there's still really good players at the level, at a mid-major level, especially a place in like the American. So it almost just for him seems very mental right now. Trent Noah, we've seen do it here at times. I think he'll kind of get better as the year goes on. And then a lot of these guys I think are just, good shooters. I think really the one difference from like this team and last year's is, when nobody's shooting well, you don't have a Kobe Bryant to go out there and make 3 of them and kind of make up for everybody else.
Mhm.
So without the kind of the knockdown shooter, I still think these guys are much better shooters than we've seen to this point. I don't expect a full season of, going 2 for 16 in halves.
Yeah, I mean, even the second half where we ended up going, what was it? I think 6 for 11 in the second half, or 5 for 11. I mean, he still finished 7 of 27, which is right around 26%, and that's after getting hot in the second half versus I don't want to say a bad Nichols team, but a not good Nichols team. And I don't know. Obviously, there's one game really that counted, and obviously you're missing the guy who's supposed to set the table for a lot of these shooters with Jalen Lowe. And I'm cautious to say this, with Trent Noah, I'm getting the same feeling I got of Travis Perry's offseason last year, where all you heard the entire offseason was the kid's not missing in practice. He's not missing in practice. And then you get out to the game atmosphere and it's just not translating. I get it's been 2 exhibitions and 1 regular season game, but especially with how he's starting right now, I don't think there's a world in which Trent Noah can play this many minutes, because you see, even against a team like Nichols, I mean, that first half, I mean, majority of the buckets that were scored on Trent. And if he's not hitting those shots, it's almost kind of like Ansley Almanor last year, where if he's not hitting those shots, he really just doesn't have the ability to stay on the floor, at least in my opinion. Are you seeing anything different there?
No, I mean the one obviously huge difference from the Travis Perry stuff that we heard a year ago is like that we did see, Trent Noah shoot 33% from behind the arc last year. So like it is a guy that has been in that moment. So, Travis, it looked like a lot of times once he got into the game, like the moment was too big for him. Trent Noah so far, I just feel like he's just missing shots. And, I don't feel like it's anything like between the ears like we saw last year with Travis Perry at times. So I mean that's kind of my one difference. I do agree, like the off season you heard the very similar kind of narrative, but uh, again, my glimmer of hope is just that, we've seen Trent Noah do this. Now if we go 3 more weeks and he's not making anything, then yeah, obviously we'll have a much different conversation, but I still have pretty good confidence that, he'll turn it around and start to actually hit some shots. I mean, last night he only played, 9 minutes? I think he only took 2 threes. So, yeah, you'd like to see him make one of his 2, but, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I know the part about like, what I'm trying to get at here is, like, you even brought up his 33% shooting from 3 last year. I don't think that's good enough for him to get on the court with this team. I really don't. I think he's going to have to find a role in which, like, I think like the baseline for Trent Noah to get solid minutes with this team is like a 37%. I think he has to be that knockdown shooter. I'm not saying a Kobe Bryant level, but just a tick down from that. I think he has to be like your 3-point shooter. You need a 3. Let's go to Trent Noah. I think that's what he has to be to get good minutes on this team, because the depth that we've mentioned all off season, don't see Trent adding enough to the team without that shooting. And it's growing concerning for me because I mentioned it a little bit last year, but obviously last year he was a true freshman and he was put in the moments that we never thought he was going to be playing. Like if you would have told us Trent was playing that much last year as he did, neither one of us would have believed you. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. Obviously, it's been one game, but I think I'm going to have a little bit shorter of a leash on Trent and the PT that he's getting, even though, he's Kentucky's angel.
Yeah, I will say. But like part of it too is I think, especially if Lowe plays Friday night, like I don't expect Trent to still be in the starting lineup. I would imagine that they'll just play a little smaller with Aberdeen and Owe and not have Trent Noah out there. So I do think like obviously injuries happen and like we're very accustomed to that after last year, but like
I'm tired of it.
I
I'm
I, I
tired of it.
I do think if knock on wood we get lucky and can have most of these guys for most of the season, like a lot of this stuff will just kind of work itself out. Like Trent Noah won't have to play as big of a role. You won't see Colin Chandler look as uncomfortable playing the point guard. Again, who knows? Maybe some of these injuries linger or more pop up throughout the year, and you're trying to figure it out. And we're back to having conversations like we had last year where I felt like guys were kind of in unfair positions to them or for them, I guess. So, but I just think a lot of this stuff's going to kind of continue to work itself out. And even though that Lowe is not a knockdown shooter, I think everything will just come easier for the rest of these guys once you get him back, and not just him setting the floor, just having these guys kind of play a natural role and a more fine-tuned role for what they're good at.
Yeah, and just something that they've worked all offseason doing as well. I mean,
Correct.
you mentioned with those injuries, everybody's playing out of position. Ortega's got the ball more in his hands. Obviously, Collins now running the one. Aberdeen's, forced to play more than he would be, even though I do think he's going to end up getting a lot of minutes
Yeah.
regardless of Jalen Lowe's injury. But it just puts people in unfair situations and having to make more plays when you are missing, the leader of the team, especially with how much you've heard about Jalen and how good he's looked and how he can pick his spots and get to any spot on the floor. I'm really looking forward to when he gets back. I don't think that they'll play him on Friday. I can't imagine why they would, unless it's just kind of like they did with Denzel Aberdeen, just to get back into the flow. Because Jake, it's crazy enough to say, but we got 6 days into the Louisville game.
Yeah. I think if he can, you try to play him just for that point. I think it would be tough to send him out there for the first time all year against Louisville. So, if he's healthy and, there's no risk of re-injury or anything, and, even if you only have him out there for 15 minutes, 7 minutes a half or something, I still think you do it just to kind of see how these guys all fit together in an actual live game action before you get to Louisville. But I'll tell you, I think when we talked a few weeks ago and you said kind of give me a bold prediction, and I said I thought, Aberdeen might kind of fade off a little bit, and, I have now completely flipped just in one preseason game that he's played, and then last night, like he's going to be extremely important to this team. And, he's a guy that, can make some shots. I just think he's going to make everybody better being out there as the senior leader. And I am all in on Aberdeen. And, I think between him and Colin Chandler, you're going to have a lot of good options to play the two, especially when Lowe's back.
Yeah, I agree. And Jake, I mean, we're 14 minutes into this episode of the Cats Talk podcast, and we have not yet mentioned the Sports Center #1 play, in which it had me in. I was sitting on my desk chair here, had the parents on the couch, Tyler over there watching the game as well. I grabbed the wall and put my feet up, and it was almost in a fetal position after watching it. It was ridiculous. And I saw him catch it. I saw him take that one bounce. I was like, oh dear Lord, somebody's about to get baptized by the Mormon. And what he does is he rises up, cocks that thing back, and just baptizes him. Goes full air Mormon on him. What a ridiculous play! I mean, that was disgusting. I was waiting for you to call me instantly, and you then you sent me a text, and I was like, there it is. I know he's watching, and I know Jake's going crazy right now.
Well, so I will say, so I was watching obviously the whole game once I got logged in. Like 30 seconds before it happened, my daughter started crying. So I got up, I walk in there, make sure she's good, tuck her back in. And as I'm in the hallway, I hear Ravi Moss going insane. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, I just missed something crazy. And, I run back in there. And then, so I didn't get to see it 100% live. I had to watch right after the dead ball when they re-showed it, but absolutely filthy. I mean, it's one of the best dunks in Rupp Arena for sure, and probably one of the best ones we've seen since Willie made that poor guy from UC retire in the tournament. So I, I don't know if that guy ever picked up a basketball again, but that was insane. The another one that not quite that level obviously, but Malachi kind of had a dunk on somebody's head, and that center after he got dunked on, I don't know what his complaint was, but he turned and started screaming at the official. So I think that's how like you kind of got put on a little bit of a poster, but yeah, Colin Chandler's deserving of number one on Sports Center and absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just talk about Colin in general. Obviously, he's kind of been thrust into being more of a ball handler so far early in the season. And you could tell in that first half when he had to run the one, he's just not comfortable in that spot as of right now. And then you saw with that switch into the second half, with him being able to run the two, be able to play off ball. I mean, just in that play specifically, he's off ball, catches it, takes a jab step, and then goes and attacks the lane. And you even saw it in his shot. His shot looked
Yeah,
a little bit more pure. I think he hit three threes in the second half. Ended up with 15 points. I mean, Colin
didn't
had
miss a shot in the second half.
a great second half, and I think you saw how comfortable he is at that two spot. And really, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. That's what he practiced all last year doing, and then he had to play the point last year because of injuries. Practice all off season at the two this year, expecting big things that way. Maybe just being Otega's backup, giving him spells there, and then is thrust back into the one early into the season, and you just see the difference in comfortability when he runs from the one to the two.
Absolutely. I mean, I was someone that all off season I said I thought he could be a big backup to Low. Obviously, I don't think that's the case, but man, he looks so good playing off the ball compared to on the ball. I mean, last night in that first half, you mentioned it, like it looked back to early last season, Colin Chandler, and just the switch and, having him kind of be off the ball. I think it was, Pope even acknowledged it, like, he's not going to be, he's going to have to play the two. I think he said something like, he's just a better reactor than he is a pure decision maker. And you see it, just everything was so much more comfortable. He wasn't hesitating on shots. He was catching the ball in rhythm, ready to go. And whether he was, to your point, attacking the basket or taking the three, just so much more comfortable. And that second half performance was kind of the Colin Chandler hype we heard all off season of Pope talking about guys in their second year in his system. And I think you really, really kind of saw it in the second half. And I'm expecting still a huge season out of Colin Chandler. And I think it just shows just how comfortable he is playing that too.
Yeah, and I think at shooting guard specifically, you can actually unleash a lot of that athleticism and actually be able to
Yep.
put a lot of that on the floor that he can't really do at the one. And I don't know if you're as excited. I know you already talked a little bit about Denzel Aberdeen, but I kind of want to talk about him more here.
Oh, I'm excited.
23 minutes in this game. Obviously, I mean, he's only 1 for 5 from three. We'd like a couple more of those shots to start falling. He did airball one that looked gross. And when I say gross, I mean historically gross. One of the worst shots maybe I've ever seen. But the part that gets me very excited is he really didn't run the point guard until the second half, and he finishes the game with 6 assists to 0 turnovers. And to have that as like your spelling Jalen Lowe while he's getting a break, as your obviously I think he's going to start when this team is fully healthy at shooting guard. But to have that ability to maybe pull him first or pull Jalen, to have that interchangeability, to not have that need at the one, not having to run Colin there. I'm excited to see what Denzel can do, especially if he starts making more of those shots.
Yeah, I obviously all in on Denzel. You know, it was really nice. You mentioned the 6 assists. I mean, he made some really good passes. Even he hit Owe one time, cut into the basket. Just he looked really comfortable in the second half, and I think it's a huge just addition. We talked about maybe this team doesn't have a true backup point guard. As crazy as it is, after just one half, I feel
He is the
much
backup.
better about that.
He's your starter, but he's your backup point guard.
Yeah, and there's just so many options with this team. I know we talked about it, but once you get Low back, you mentioned you can take, if you want to take Low out first and bring Colin in. If you want to take Denzel out first, you can. If Otega picks up 2 quick fouls or something, like you could even play all 3 of those guys together, I think. And there's just so many different kind of ways you can go about this. And, unlike last year where, when Lamont Butler's out or not playing and hurt, like you're not going to a true freshman trying to, play way outside of his level of athleticism. Like there's just, you got more options. And again, knock on wood, as long as this team can stay healthy. And I know obviously we're already seeing some of the things we saw last year with injuries, but if they can, I just think you have so many pieces that, if a guy does pick up a couple fouls or, has a tough game with foul trouble, like you got so many different options that I think you can stay afloat in games.
Yeah, the versatility I think is going to be the biggest part of this team's strengths. And, I texted this to you yesterday, and I don't want this to be my take all season.
Here we go.
I really don't want it to be.
I was wondering when we were going to get to it, but
I really don't want it to be.
I don't want to hear any more about me being Mr. Negative and this and that.
I'm pumping the brakes on the Otega hype train. SEC preseason player of the year. Jake, I'll give you like 100-1 odds. Like I'll give you $100 if you put down $1 if he wins SEC player of the year. And that's not really, it's just not a dig at Otega. It's just, if you watch it in this game, the lack of effort is so concerning to me on both ends of the floor. And it's something that I had concerns with all of last season too. He picks his battles on when and when he doesn't want to play. And I think you've seen that already in the 3 games so far this year. Georgetown, he was out there. It wasn't Purdue. You saw how well he played in his limited minutes against Purdue because they came in with that number 1 title next to their name. In the 2 games since, you have not seen that effort. And I'm really hoping it's just something that's early season. He's still working his way back from that turf toe injury. But I'm really concerned with the lack of effort that I've seen from Otega so far this season. And I'm hoping it's not the same song and dance as we had as last year, to where if his offense isn't going, the defense isn't going to come with it either. And I don't want this offense to be run through Otega. At no point during the season do I want this to be the Otega Owe offense show, because I think we're going to end up finding ourselves in a bunch of close games that I don't think we should be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want the offense to run through them either, but like I do think there's going to be games where we're going to be struggling to score, and there's going to be times where it makes sense for Otega just to put his head down and go get a bucket. I do kind of think it is just the early season working back from the injury. I mean, he missed a good amount of time, with that turf toe, just trying to kind of get that comfortability back. I do think I agree with you. There were a couple moments last night where, there was one really bad one in the first half where he made it, he made a turnover, and then I didn't really see him get back in transition to defend. So like that stuff is concerning, but I'm kind of in the boat of, I am leaning towards, it's just that, early season trying to get back. The bigger issue for me, and I don't even know if I want to bring this up now because it's going to sound like a broken record from a year ago, but I haven't seen any improvement out of Brandon Garrison. And I know that's not like,
it's not.
And, I think Malachi is going to struggle maybe in the SEC against, some of these guys, but everything I've seen out of Malachi, he looks like the better player right now. And I don't know if that'll be the case when you get into SEC play, or, you're playing St. John's and some of these other teams with some size and athleticism where you can't just kind of use that to his advantage. But man, he's he's looked good. He made some really nice passes last night. Thought he made some nice moves just in the post. I mentioned the dunk, but like he kind of had a little spin off of a guy to get to that spot. Like I'm really impressed with what I've seen out of Malachi Moreno so far. And you mentioned it earlier a few weeks ago. Like once Quaintance is back, like there is a world where BG's minutes are very, very, very small. And I haven't seen the improvement that, a lot of people kind of talked about. They were expecting the quote unquote jump with BG. And it reminds me of kind of everything we saw last year with him.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. I brought that up, I think, 2, 3 weeks ago, and I can see BG just not saying not having a role on this team when it comes to the end of the season, but a significantly diminished role, especially when it comes to at that point you'll have Malachi now playing a full season almost in the SEC, bulking up. I mean, I think he added like 20 pounds just over the offseason.
Yeah.
You'll have almost a fully healthy Jaden Quaintance, and then you look at it and it's like, well, what does Brandon Garrison do better than those two to get him minutes? And we're already going to run out a small lineup, I think, anyways. And then he doesn't shoot better than Yelovich if you're looking for the shooting big. He doesn't play defense better than Malachi and or Jaden Quaintance, obviously. So, I mean, I'm there with you. And it looks like you and I might just be going back and forth. You could probably just recycle our takes from Otega and BG from this time this year to last year. But
yeah,
I'm there with you. I don't think I'm seeing the jump yet. Obviously, I mean, he didn't play too much in this game, but it's the typical Brandon Garrison roller coaster. You see him make a play where you're like, all right, we can start to build some things around that, and then you see 2 to 3 plays back to back that you're like, dude, I don't want this guy on the court ever. But I will say, if there's one thing that Malachi is going to have to do to like earn those minutes from Brandon Garrison, this guy's got to hit free throws. I mean, those free throws last night were a monstrosity. And I'm talking about like Tyler Britton's basketball takes monstrosity that bad. Like
Tyler
I could,
Britton shooting free throws monstrosity.
I don't know. I've only seen Tyler Britton shoot a basketball I think one time, and it was on like a mini hoop. But I think I'm taking Tyler in the free throw shooting contest over Malachi.
One
And
of six.
that's something that's got to change and it was a 1 of 6, and it wasn't a close 1 of 6. It wasn't one where you look at it and you're like, oh, the form looked good, the shot just wasn't there. I mean, my mom said it. She was sitting right there. She's like, why don't they just keep fouling him? I'm like, Ma, I don't know. That's a great question. I'm not sure because right now, they're getting 1 point every 3 possessions when he's going down the floor. So that's something that's definitely going to have to change if Malachi's going to want to see minutes, especially once you get closer to tournament times. There's going to be people who are going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't really make sense because I feel like we saw him shoot decent in high school, So I don't know. Like even watching him kind of take jumpers here and there, whether it was when he was in high school or, even in a couple of these preseason games, like his actual like jump shot form doesn't look all that bad. But yeah, you're right. Once he gets to that free throw line, it is, yeah, 1 of 6. You're gonna have a hard time staying on the floor if that's the percentage you're going to shoot for a year.
Yeah, let's just put it this way: if Amari Williams would have went 1 of 6 last year, Big Blue Nation would have been up in arms, and he would have.
I would have been right there.
they would have killed this man. So I mean, we need the same thing to be going for Malachi as well. But we've gotten almost 30 minutes into this podcast and haven't been able to mention Mohamed Diabate, who I thought played exceptional in this game. And I think he gave you the stat sheet that he's going to fill almost the entire season. I think he's going to play more than 20 minutes a game. Obviously, I think they'll still want to get that rotation in. But 7 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, got a steal in there. I think that's exactly what you should expect from Mohamed Diabate. And, I need to go ahead and put it on the rooftops wherever I can when I said he might just be like the 6'6", 6'7" version of Amari Williams because so far he's proven that to be pretty good comparison.
Yeah, he was by far your most consistent player. The only one that I think we both thought played good in the first half. And then I thought he played well again in the second half. I think he's going to be, to your point, just Mr. Consistency. You kind of know what you're going to get from him. Is he going to be a superstar? Probably not, but he's going to be a guy that goes out there and I think his motor's always running at the right pace. he's a guy that's going to go get rebounds even at
And if
six
you get
six.
that motor on Otega Oweh, man.
But I think he's going to be a guy, like you said. I think this is going to be a very typical stat line we see from him, and he's a guy. I don't expect there's going to be many times where we get on here after a game and we are essentially kind of complaining about Mo Diabate. Like, yeah, there's probably not going to be a game either where we get on here and say we won it because he went off or something. But I just think he's going to be very consistent, and he's going to be a really hard guy without foul trouble for Pope to keep off the floor. You know, we've kind of talked about it in the off season. Like, there's even worlds where I think you could probably get away with playing him at the 5 here and there, and you're going to be okay because he rebounds like a guy that's 7 foot, and if you can play him in that Amari Williams kind of role, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and especially, we've mentioned we're struggling to shoot the ball right now. So if you're running him at the 5, you're getting some better shooters out there on the floor. Yep. And the only way I can imagine in which we look at Mo and we're kind of frustrated with how he played is probably going to be the free throw line, if I had to guess. And unfortunately, this being game 1 and us already talking about the free throw line as much as we have is kind of concerning. But I got nothing but good things I think are coming for Mo Diabate. And I think it's going to be kind of like how Big Blue Nation wrapped their arms around this team last year. I think he's going to have that same sort of impact to the fans. I think he's going to be one of the fan favorites. Somebody else we haven't mentioned yet, Jasper Johnson. I thought he was good in this game. I think Jasper might be, you kind of compared him a little bit to Rob Dillingham.
I said people were saying, which they were.
You said you might have agreed. You said you might have agreed with them as well. But in a way in which I can't agree with you there is, I do think there are going to be games in which you look at him and you're like, man, Jasper Johnson is the reason we won this game. Yeah. And then I think there's going to be games where you look at him and you're like, we just can't play him today. Yeah. There's just no reason. We just can't have him on the floor. And I think we're really going to have to ride the wave of the Jasper Johnson season. But, this was one of the highs here. He had 11 points, only shot 1 of 4. I don't say I want him to be hesitant with that 3-point shot, but I feel like there are some times he rushes into a bad 3-point shot. And I think hopefully that's something that when we get further into the season, he's going to learn which ones are better 3-point shots. Because we don't need him doing what Jalen Lowe did at Pittsburgh last year, and that's just hoisting up an early shot 3-pointer that's contested. I don't think he has that 3-point shot right now to be able to do things like that. But I have loved what I've seen from Jasper so far this season. I'm really hoping we can just kind of contain the lows, make the lows not so low, and let's keep those highs high. I don't want to sound like the Reds GM and be like, we want to stay right in the middle all the time. No. We still want those highs, but let's just kind of level out those lows a little bit.
Yeah, and I think with the depth of this team, you can, right? Like, there's going to be moments where he comes in and there's a 3-minute stretch where he has 12 points and he's just going nuclear. And then you might start to see him kind of get a little out of control. Well, guess what? Then you got Denzel Aberdeen and Jalen Lowe and Colin Chandler or whoever else to come in for him, and you send him back on the bench for a few minutes, and then you calm him back down. But there definitely will be a game this year, a big game, where we're going to say that there was a stretch of 3 or 4 minutes where he just got red hot, and that was what kind of pushed us towards the finish line or got us a lead that we never gave up on. And he's obviously different than Dillingham, but I do think that just kind of microwave quickness, how hot he can get, I think will be very similar to what we saw with Rob. But again, like, unlike that team with Rob, Jasper's obviously not the player that Rob is, but like, there were moments where if Rob wasn't shooting well or like rushing shots, you still had to leave him out there because you didn't really have a whole lot of else to go with. But in this role, you can, I think, kind of manage it a little better, and you can just probably tell this is a game he just doesn't have it. I'm going to sit him for a while. And then he might even be a guy that barely plays for 35 minutes of a game and comes in the last 5 and knocks down 3 threes. And, we're looking at a stat line of, he still put up 11 points. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those games I think you need them the most were kind of games like this where you look at halftime, you're like, man, we only have 28 points. We need to figure out how to get some offense started. I think games like that are where he can be very beneficial to his team. And we've seen already kind of how good this freshman class has been across the country and Jasper was highly regarded in this class. So hopefully, he can continue to make headways there.
This.
I'm going to pause you there. I don't know what you were going to say, but I'm just saying from either Cam Williams or Andrei Yelovich, we got to have one of these two guys making threes. I mean, those are our stretch fours, and they're supposed to both be good shooters. Is it just me, or I don't remember what I was listening to. I think it was one of the KSR episodes that they had, and a caller called in talking about how, Mark Pope talked about all offseason, they were trying to get Cam Williams' shot to just be quicker, just have a quicker release time. And if you watch the difference, I looked at it after. If you look at Tulane and the time it takes him to shoot the ball there versus the time it's taking him to shoot it now in Kentucky, it's so much faster. But at the same time, like we're missing all of them. So at what point do we go and say, hey, listen, I get, it's more beneficial for him to have that quick release, but if he's off target, it doesn't matter. And something I'm starting to grow a little bit more concerned with. Hopefully, either those shots start to fall, or we kind of go back to the ways of if it wasn't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I can't really speak to looking at the form. That wasn't, I didn't hear anybody say that. I'm not obviously saying you're wrong. That's just not something I picked up on. To me, maybe it is that in his head, but like there does feel like there's just something that he just doesn't feel comfortable. There's times where like he takes bad shots, and then there's times where he's hesitant to shoot on like a good look. I mean, we saw it against Georgetown. He would, hold the ball half a second too long, take a dribble or pump fake, and then by that point, like there's a guy closing out on him, and then he shoots.
Yeah.
Like there's just little stuff. I actually feel more confident that like Yelovich will start to, hit those shots and, kind of maybe even turn into that role. But like for Cam Williams, it just looks like, I don't know if it's just he's not ready or to your point, maybe there is something that they were trying to change with his shot that is now in his head, because like it just doesn't look comfortable whatsoever.
Yeah, it really hasn't. And I'm going to put it, because I don't know, Jake, when the last time, I don't, we're both old men now at this point. I mean, you're married with 2 children. I can't say the same over here, but I'm just old.
I feel 50.
I don't know when the last time you shot a basketball was, but imagine saying that, and there's just your form that you've grown up with your entire life that you think's been working to a reasonable extent. You got to change it like that overnight, and you go from shooting in front of 3,000 people to 22,000 as well with that new form. So I understand why he is a little bit uncomfortable if that's what the reasoning is, and hopefully we can start to get that figured out, because I do think Cam Williams is a little bit of a lottery ticket with this team. If he can be that athletic Ansley Almanor just with a lot higher upside and be able to knock down corner threes, just be able to be a guy who can hit threes in transition, get out on the break, I think he can add a lot to this team if he's able to hit those shots. But right now, he's not hitting those shots. Kind of the same thing I mentioned with Trent Noah. If he's not hitting shots, he really can't play him all that much.
Well, but I think the nice part, like kind of to what you mentioned, is you just need, honestly, either him or Yelovich to be that. There's not going to be a world. Yeah, there's not going to be a world with
3-point shooter. One of those three, you've got to find a way to be like that 37% plus 3-point shooter.
But like even with like just Cam Williams and Yelovich, like probably one of those guys we've kind of thought it, like one of those guys is going to get kind of squeezed out of this rotation, especially as, Quaintance and everybody's fully healthy. So like really, I just think it comes down to which one of them's going to start to actually hit those shots. And then I think the other one's going to kind of get squeezed out a little bit. So, but it is nice because you're not banking on one of those guys to do it. You're just saying, or I mean, you don't have just one option to do it. You just need one of those two to figure it out.
Yeah. And the reason I think, Yelovich might get a little bit more of that leash is just his rebounding ability if the shots aren't falling. Correct. I mean, he was able to grab 5 boards in this game in 17 minutes. Got up 8 shots in his 17 minutes. So I mean, he wasn't shy on letting them go. No. That was good to see. He was also, he was 0 for 3 from 3. Hopefully, you start to see some of those fall. But I mean, 6 points and 5 boards. It did have a block shot in there as well. So I mean, a good stat line, I think, for a guy who's still adjusting. Obviously, came over late. what do you think you've seen from Yelovich, and what are you looking forward to seeing from him on Friday, if anything, just knocking down shots?
Yeah, I mean, knocking down shots is the big thing. He looks more. You kind of just hit it. Like he does actually look a little more comfortable and everything than maybe I would have even thought. Um, you know, I don't see like the issues that we kind of saw with like Big Z at times. Like I think if he can start to really knock down shots, he's going to be, I think, a huge X factor for this team. But I mean, everything he looks more comfortable and even a little better defensively and everything than I think we were kind of expecting at this point. I think we kind of thought, he could be the quote unquote lottery ticket for this team down the stretch, but like outside of shooting, I think everything looks great so far, and I think he'll obviously at some point those shots are going to start to fall.
Yeah, I mean, and think about just from like when JQ gets back, imagine having that like elite rim protector as one big, and then that other big can just step out and just
They
knock
will.
down
That's a
anytime.
lot of length too between the two of
That's,
them.
that's what I'm saying, and that's why that was one of my predictions earlier in the season that I think that might be the two that you're rolling with towards the end of the year, the two bigs. Obviously, Malachi's looked really good, so that's already throwing a little bit of wrench in the plans, but Jake, we've already talked a lot about this game. I do want to talk about two things real quick, or one thing, but two people that fall into this bucket. Reese Potter and Braden Hawthorne.
Yep.
Neither one got into the game last night when the walk-ons did. Are we assuming both red shirts for both of them, especially now with college basketball, guys wanting to stay in college basketball almost as long as they can, make as much NIL money as possible? Do you think that's probably what's happening with those two?
I mean, that's what it looks like. Hawthorne, I mean, if he's good with it and he's telling Pope he'll for sure be back here next year, like, absolutely use it, And to your point, there's a lot of guys that are playing, 5 years now, and there's not that as big of a push to go on and, go start your pro career, whether it's potentially in the NBA or overseas, as there was obviously with NIL now. So, you know, that is what it feels like. You would think if you weren't going to redshirt them, you would, have gotten them in a couple different moments. But, I am a little surprised that if that's what they're doing, that Pope hasn't said it yet. Who knows? Maybe it's kind of they're still working it out or talking about it, and they'll announce it here in a week or so. But yeah, I mean, it definitely does feel like they're leaning that way with both of them.
Yeah, I will say Pope kind of keeps everything close to the vest. He doesn't
Yeah.
really let too many things out. I mean, you've seen that already with the injury updates. I think what was it? Jeff Goodman was the first one to get the fact that Jalen Lowe was going to be out for this game, and then I don't even think any of us thought Denzel was going to be a game time decision for this one, and he was. So I mean, he keeps everything
I would
close to the.
I would
So
expect somebody to ask him here, either before or shortly after Valpo if they don't play again. So hopefully we kind of get a definitive one way or another here soon.
And I know who won't be asking those questions. That'll be me because the credentials got denied once again. So I will not be asking. But I would, Jake, if I was there, I would be able to ask that question. But obviously, Tyler and I had our preview show yesterday in which we provided our records for this Kentucky Wildcats team. Jake, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to let you tell
Oh,
Big Blue Nation. Go ahead and pull up that schedule real
yep.
quick.
Let me get to that.
I'll ad lib a little for you and let the listeners, let them know what we did pick last night. Obviously, I had us going 11-2 in the non-conference. I had us losing to St. John's and Slick Rick. I think Slick Rick, unfortunately, does do the old. I've taught you a lot of my tricks, but not all of them, to Coach
Yep.
Pope. And then I do think in the conference play we go 14-4. I think obviously there's going to be tough games. We face Tennessee twice, we face Florida twice, Alabama. So I got us dropping a couple of those games. And unfortunately, Jake, I know you haven't been able to watch it yet, but I do have us losing in Bud Walton Arena. I hated to say it. You know me, and I hated to say it. Hated it so much, but I do have them losing them because I do think this Arkansas team is really good. So I had them going 25-6, and Tyler Britton, of course. Yeah, I'm going 26-5. So with your quick glance and what you're expecting,
Yep.
and now you have a leg up on us You've already got one in the
Oh,
bank.
this
You've already got,
doesn't. Yeah.
you've
Yep.
already got one in the bank that you don't even have to worry
Yep.
about. We didn't get to
You're
see
right.
this team against Nichols, so
You're
you're
right.
already
I was
a little.
really going back and forth on whether I was going to pick Nichols, the 31.5 point underdog,
You're
to
you're already
beat
working
the
with a little
Cats.
bit of an advantage here. So hey,
All right.
tell the fine people of Big Blue Nation what you're expecting. Go ahead and just go through it real
Yeah.
quick. Non-conference and then the SEC. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Yep. We'll go quickly, but obviously a win over Valpo on Friday. I don't care if we play this game November 11th or if we play it March 31st. L's down, buddy, and we're gonna walk into the Yum Center, and we're walking out with a dub. So,
Jake,
um,
there's a picture of me floating around somewhere at the Louisville Marathon over the weekend, just giving L's down to a
I love it.
cameraman.
I
It's
love it.
floating somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where it's at. Once I have it, I'll send it to you because you can never have enough L's down in your life.
Absolutely. Eastern Illinois win. Michigan State. This is my kind of, I think, one surprise of the non-conference. I don't know why I have this feeling. I just have a feeling Kentucky's going to drop this one. I don't have any good rationale for it other than it just feels like a game that we're going to be a little disappointed. We're going to beat Louisville. I think we'll just kind of have that high. And for whatever reason, we just don't go out and play well, and we drop one to Michigan State. Loyola, Tennessee Tech, both wins. We beat North Carolina at Rupp. Beat Gonzaga in Nashville. North Carolina Central win. Indiana and Rupp, I think we take care of that one. I do have us losing to St. John's as well. I think, you mentioned it. Rick, I think, is going to really want that one. I think it's going to be, Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend, as he tells
Yeah,
Mark Pope, like he still knows how to do this. Plus, I mean, St. John's is really good. And we're going to
they
see
are.
just how good they play Alabama this Saturday. So right
It'll be a
as
great.
right in the heart of college football, we get to watch St. John's and Bama play basketball too. Bellarmine wins, so I got two non-conference losses, which I think would be an overall success.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Obviously,
a tough conference schedule. So if your
yeah,
only losses are you had them losing to Michigan State and to St. John's, I'd have them losing to St. John's and Gonzaga.
yeah,
So I mean, if they were able to come out, I feeling 11-2 to start the season, especially because I I mentioned it when I gave my Louisville prediction. It's going to be a pretty good Louisville team,
yeah.
and
But they're still.
they're not looking that great right now,
I don't
honestly,
care.
with the
I don't care.
injuries. Oh, trust me, I'm there with you. I did the same thing, and I did the exact same thing you did. I was like, I don't care where this game is, when it is, who's out, who's playing. I mean, if we need our point guard to go perfect from the field again, we'll do it. But it is else. So, I mean, 11-2 in the non-conference. We both had that one going. I was 14-4 in SEC play. Tyler had him at 13-5. Which one are you leaning more towards?
Yeah. So I guess I'll go game by game quickly. I won't. I know we're getting long on time here. Um, I think they open SEC play with a loss there at Alabama.
I
That's
had that
kind of
one.
that's a
Did you
tough
listen
one
to
to.
the pod yesterday and get all this info?
I didn't, but everybody, great minds think alike. I obviously,
Idiots think alike too, so I'm not sure which one we are.
I'm the basketball mind on the podcast, so I mean we all know that.
Oof.
All right. So yeah, I think they lose that one to Bama. Beat Missouri, beat Mississippi State, both at home. LSU still kind of stinks. You win that one on the road. I think you go and win at Tennessee. I don't think they're going to be near as good this year. Rick Barnes, we kind of maybe start that retirement tour here a little early.
I don't know, man. He had an extension that he signed, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. So what I got them 4-1 to this point. I think they get a little hot here. I think they beat Texas at home. They beat Ole Miss at home. At Vandy, I'm gonna say that's kind of the weird one they dropped there. I don't know why we can't win at Vandy anymore.
My weird one there was that Ole Miss game. For some reason, I got a bad feeling about that.
I just
Travis
think
is
at
going to
Rupp.
Travis is going to find a way to score like 14 points and hit 4 threes, and it's going to be the difference in this game.
I think
That
they
was,
take.
that was my
I think we take care of business at home this year. We don't play a lot of great teams from the SEC. So I'll say they lose that 9 o'clock game to Vandy. Man, I start to lean with you about this Arkansas game, but I just can't do it. I can't pick. Like, we owe them one. We got to go get it. We go steal one on their floor. Beat Oklahoma at home, Tennessee at home. I'm gonna pick a win. Another regular season sweep of Tennessee. At Florida, loss. So that's my third loss.
Yep.
Georgia at home win. At Auburn, Stephen Pearl does not have that program to where they should be. Win that one. Win at South Carolina. Beat Vandy at home. I'm going to say they lose to A&M on the road and come back and beat the defending champs to close out the regular season. So,
all right. So I'm concerned for a multitude of reasons here.
Well, we picked the same number, but we got different games, I think, right?
Yeah, but we also have the same non-conference and SEC play. You know what? I'm going to leave it up to the Cats Talk podcast fans and subscribers to determine if you just listen to the podcast and we're like, yeah, Cam knows it all, so I'm going to make sure to go with his exact preseason prediction.
People were devastated that I wasn't on the preview. They're like, we don't get any actual basketball.
We had our best ratings of all time.
We don't have any actual basketball knowledge here. We just got two blabbermouths going on and on, picking games. They're picking them out of a hat. They watched Tyler flip a coin every time before he made his prediction. Somehow in non-conference, heads came up 13 straight times.
Yeah, he hasn't gone undefeated in the non-conference and a better record than us. So I don't know, but I think if we're looking back on this team and they go 25-6, I think
I'm
we're
ecstatic. That's a good year.
You think that's good enough to win the SEC regular season title? 14-4 in the conference?
I would have to see what Florida's actual conference schedule would look like. But
that last game of the year facing Florida, that could be
fun. On a Sunday.
That could be your SEC champion right there on that floor. So that'll be really cool to see. Jake, obviously, we just went through all of that. Kentucky does play on Friday already against Valpo. They were awful last year.
Yeah.
And I don't expect that to change too much this year. It's in Indiana. Everything, for the most part, except for my grandparents that's in the state of Indiana, suck. So, what do we have? We got Mark Sanchez in Indiana. He doesn't do too well in Indiana either. So, what do you got? What are you looking forward to in this Valparaiso game? Because I've already mentioned what I'm looking forward to. I want to see this team shoot the ball better, and I do want to see them get off to a little bit of a hotter start. I can't see 28 points at halftime again. I got to see that minimum pushing like 45 and higher at worst case.
Yeah, I was trying to find the line for it real quick, but I do expect I'm going to look forward to this offense just kind of bouncing back, and I think they do. I think you see more of kind of what we saw in the second half Tuesday night. So I'll say I'll say they get to 90. I'll say 90 to 68.
Giving up a lot of points there, huh? Only against Valpo, man. This Nichols game was a 31.5-point spread, and this Nichols team is better. I think it'll probably be a bigger spread than that. I think they'll probably look at like 36 is probably going to be the spread, something around there. Again, I'm not in Vegas for a reason. They don't trust me out there, and for a good reason they don't trust me out there. But I got the Cats scoring a little bit more in this game. I think they find a way to make some of those shots. I do think there is a potential chance of Jalen Lowe playing some minutes in this game as a ramp up for the Louisville game, and I think that'll help. And then hopefully having Denzel Aberdeen at full health will help this offense get clicking and get going. I think Kentucky wins 98-58. I think they have a 40-point win in the books, and I think you're really starting to feel a lot better because let's be honest, the Georgetown and Nichols game back to back does not give you a whole lot of optimism going into your biggest rival.
Yeah, I don't care. Again, we could play this game. November whatever 11th it is, or we could play it, like I said, March 31st, or we could play this game in July in Afghanistan. I do not care. We are not losing. We are continuing the tradition of
running the
smacking.
5 out there, and I'm still taking the Cats.
Hey, I could put Pat Kelsey in the post. I
You
may
put him
not be
in-
able to. I may not be able to do a lot. I can put him in the post right here. Come on, Pat.
I would, if we could find a way to make that happen, I'd pay a significant amount of money to see what would happen there. But guys,
I can throw this weight around.
that's going to be all for us on the Cats Talk podcast. Obviously, the Cats will tip off against Valparaiso on Friday. That is, again, on SEC Network Plus. So, Jake, make sure you still have that login info from the in-laws because you're going to need it. And
figure it out, ESPN and YouTube. Let's go. Come on.
Yep.
Let's.
Mickey Mouse wants too much money, and YouTube wants to keep their money. So,
let's figure
you
this
get
out.
two money-hungry companies, something's not going to go right. But Cats are playing on Friday night. Women's play on Thursday night. The football team looks to take down Florida on Saturday night. It's going to be a long weekend for Big Blue Nation. Hopefully everybody is ready for the ride because we're going to have you covered here on the Cats Talk podcast. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on X. We're everywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and, of course, on YouTube. Jake, it's almost Louisville time, but we got to take care of Valparaiso first. Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.